Welcome to Laid Back Law with your favorite lawyers from around the interwebs, discussing the most pressing of topics every Friday at noon Eastern Time.
All right, we are live, and this week we're kind of doing an experiment. This is actually being co-streamed on Laid Back Law and also on all the Viva Fry network channels. I wanted to get that out early, though, because if you like this kind of thing, you might want to consider subscribing to Laid Back Law, because Dave is not able to make every panel every week, and we do this legal panel every Friday at noon Eastern Time, and tends to be a lot of fun. So
yeah, I'm going to see. It doesn't seem to be streaming on my locals yet. Is it streaming on? How long does it take before this typically is?
I could take a 30 seconds, minute. I mean, I don't have a specific number.
Okay, let's see here. I'm going to wait because there is, thus far, it doesn't seem to be streaming on my platform. Well, it's on YouTube. Or
yeah, it's streaming here.
YouTube. Do we have? I'm going to go to Viva Barnes. No, it does not look like it's streaming on Viva Barnes. But let's give that another second. Nor does it seem to be streaming on local on Rumble either.
Okay, that's odd.
We might have to add the RTMP back in here.
Yeah, I mean, everything should be there, but if not, that's fine. Oh, here we go. 1, 2. I don't know what happened there, but it should be starting up anytime.
No, let's go. Give it one more minute. We'll give it one more minute, and then we'll see.
I just found them. They weren't turned on. I don't know who turned them off, but
those sons of. Okay, here. Let's see. Okay, now we're live on locals, and we are going to be live then shortly on.
Everything
Rumble.
should start rolling in eventually.
Okay, good. It's done.
You cursed it. You cursed it. It's your fault.
The saboteur in the back. I'm joking. Yeah, so we'll see if it works. It's I can't make every Friday. We are overlapping, but also today I have to be somewhere at 2:00, so it worked out perfectly because I would have to otherwise end my stream a little early. And I'm going to cover a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, anyhow.
All right, and again, if you want to see this kind of thing, check out Laid Back Law. You can see it. Search it out, Laid Back Law. Boom. Maybe somebody will drop it in the chats. I do appreciate it. So, Ian, before we came on, you were just telling us. Well, I was surprised. There's still guns that are legal in Canada?
Yeah, although that list just got a little smaller because they just announced that they're banning, effective immediately, 179 more makes and models, including their variants. We don't have the list yet, but so that's going to be fun. So we're just waiting to see sort of what comes of that, but yeah, it's going to be a massive mess, and this seems like entirely the wrong time, like with tariff threats and so forth. It's like, hey, let's spend billions of dollars disarming Canadians. It is absolutely mind-boggling, and it really tells you how unserious the Liberal Party is about all of this stuff. It's like, all right, there's a tariff war. Let's spend billions on bullshit. Or
I think it's the perfect time. They're going to destroy the Canadian economy and destroy the Canadian people, but disarm them so that they can't revolt after they're done completing the destruction. And I made the joke before we went live, but it will be less fresh now. The next thing they're going to ban is like making finger guns with your hands. Like that's going to be a step too far. Are they at one point they banned the ban encompassed duck hunting shotguns. Or at least
I mean, there's all sorts of things on there. There's some of the guns on the that they've banned are things like there's one that if you have it, the buyback is proposing to pay you like $500,000 because they're like bespoke like safari guns. So the company that makes them, everything they make is like engraved with gold inlay and so forth. And nobody is robbing a liquor store with a $500,000 gun. Because if you have a $500,000 gun, you don't need to rob a liquor store. It's, all of this stuff is so idiotic. They're banning a whole bunch of makes and models of 22s, which, if you know anything about firearms, a 22 is not exactly, a big threat. They just want to use this essentially to ban more stuff and to divide Canadians and to, all of this So the Liberal Party is really a bit of a plague on Canada at this point, and I'm hoping that they are gone, but that's becoming more and more difficult with sort of the current political situation. So we'll see.
But back in December, banning firearms, and they were talking about donating them to Ukraine. I guess they gotta move that up because it looks like there might be some sort of settlement on the front or on the horizon in Ukraine. So better take advantage of the unification behind the Trump tariffs now to go after what they ultimately want, which is total disarmament and total subservience.
I think that was largely like virtue signaling. I don't think that they were planning on sending a whole lot there, especially because, I mean, quite frankly, if I was Ukrainian right now, I wouldn't want to take a firearm that was seized from a Canadian gun owner into combat, because there's a very real possibility that you're going to see people going, oh, well, if they're going to take my guns and send them to who knows where, somebody might, for instance, run it through some heat treatment to weaken the barrel or something. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people who are going to be, who are going to be ticked off about this. So we may see some interesting forms of sort of resistance or disagreement with it too.
Hunley, I can control the back here. Let me see.
Yeah, you can do whatever. Destroy the stream.
Just in case anybody forgot or anybody didn't know, back in the day, was it this one right here? Yeah, this guy right here, the minister. What's his name again? This guy, minister of. Is he the minister? He's not the minister of defense now. Who is it? Whatever this guy's name is. This guy. He looks like out of a.
You got to actually add it.
The government is adding a further 300.
Oh, that's an old one.
Yeah, this is December.
Makes and models of assault-style firearms to the list of prohibited firearms in Canada. This prohibition takes effect immediately. This means these firearms can no longer be legally used, sold, or imported in Canada, and can only be transferred or transported under extremely limited circumstances.
This is where it gets
good. As part of that process, the government of Canada has committed to the Ukrainian government to identify whether some of these guns would be donated to support the fight for democracy in Ukraine.
We can skip it there.
Think of the irony in this for a second. They want to ban the guns because they're dangerous, and the people aren't actually using them to cause harm to other people in Canada, but they want to give them to Ukraine so that way they can be used to kill people. Great idea.
And protect democracy. They got to take them away for democracy and then give them to other people to protect democracy. And the way he emphasizes the Ukrainian government. We're taking them from you and we're coordinating with the Ukrainian government to protect their democracy by we're going to protect two democracies at the same time with mutually juxtaposing actions. It's totally logical.
Well, and we're going to send them a bunch of 22s because that's a bunch of stuff on the list there. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Well, while I got you both on here, I've got a question. Is Trudeau actually resigning or not?
Yes. It's just that he hasn't resigned yet because we've got a weird system. So basically, once he announces that he's resigning, any public announcement that he's resigning within the Liberal Party rules, because the parties get to set their own rules, is a resignation. Like he has to resign at that point. But it triggers the leadership convention that they're doing, which is that they're right now picking a new leader. Once that new leader is chosen, Trudeau is going to step down, and they've said we don't know what the sort of handoff will look like, but I expect it'll be fairly quick. And then Carney, who has never been elected in any way, shape, or form, becomes prime minister, which is interesting because he hasn't been elected, actually doesn't have a right to sit in the House of Commons. So when the business of Parliament is going on, he doesn't have a seat.
Wait, what? Help me understand. So you're saying that the guy who will be in charge technically doesn't have a right to be there when decisions are made. Is that
Ian? Correct me if I'm wrong. He didn't get an elected seat, but someone's going to give him their seat. It's the way that you can get someone in as the leader of the party, even though they might not have actually won their seat. in the House?
Normally what they'd do is they'd run a by-election, and they'd pick a really safe riding and have him run and, then get a seat that way. I suspect what he's going to do instead is just call an election right away, because the longer he waits, I think the more sort of the wheels will fall off. Because right now he's riding people being upset about the U.S., and B, he's sort of riding, I guess, shiny new, the sort of whole shiny and new thing. So I think he's going to want an election before any of that wears off. And assuming he wins his seat, and they're going to run him in the safest riding that they possibly can, then he'll then he'll be able to be allowed in the House of Commons. But
appreciate.
Thank you, Stephen.
Also, just to highlight that it's not just that he is not an elected MP; he's never held a seat as MP. He basically lived out of the country for the better part of the last decade, maybe a decade before the last 4 years, and he's got three different passports. The man is a citizen of Canada, the UK, and Ireland. So it's truly, he's a globetrotter who is now going to be the anointed newest Prime Minister of Canada.
Now, in fairness, I do have to admit that we've had that happen here, where we had an unelected person become president. His name's Gerald Ford. So we're not completely pure in the U.S., but
and that was a staged coup as well to get to
yes.
Gerald Ford was Nixon's VP.
Correct. Gerald Ford, the same guy who moved the trajectory on the diagram of the JFK bullet when he was on the Warren Commission. Just redrew the drawing and then coincidentally becomes VP and then stumbles his way into the entire presidency.
Mark Carney was the what was he, the chair of the Bank of England?
Yeah,
I think he corrected it. He was not the vice chair; he was the chair. He is the WEF personified. A globetrotter, 3 passport carrying, unelected individual who's now going to walk right in, unless something wild happens, to be the next unelected Prime Minister of Canada.
It's gonna be interesting times, and I mean, they've said where their priorities are.
Climate, and bankrupting Canada to the benefit of China. And what's his face? Well, we won't get too much into Canadian politics, but.
All right. Well, we had the 2 Canadians on here, so I thought, let's get that out of our system for the Canadian politics. Danny, welcome. What have you been covering lately?
Karen Reid is crazy right now. Like I know that Runkle's been covering it too, and just the obvious bias and the lack of disclosure is out of control. So we've been covering that. We've also been covering a little bit of Trump stuff. Obviously, there was the address that he had before Congress. So it's all exciting. That's what we're up to.
Can you do me a favor? I ran across somebody yesterday and I forgot completely, but she is of the mind that Karen Reid is guilty as hell. Don't know why she got off, etc. And I was truly surprised, because out of all of the Law 2 people I know, like you, I believe Andrea and others, it seems to be the exact opposite viewpoint, that not only did the investigation get bungled, from what I understand, but she quite literally may be framed or set up. So am I misinterpreting what LawTube is thinking? And if I am not, can you steel man anybody who is saying that she absolutely is guilty and this is ridiculous?
Who was it you were saying is on? Because I'm curious, because I haven't seen anybody.
It's a civilian. It's a civilian.
Oh, okay.
They're not online. That's why it just took me by shock, because I'm like, wait, what? Now, maybe she's watching sources that
one of the really interesting things is just how many of those civilians, when you check it out, have very suspect accounts. There's a lot of Twitter accounts that started just around the trial started.
Yeah, no, she's legit.
I
don't even think she's on.
I've seen a few of what you're talking about, Eric. Somebody mentioned on my post yesterday, Runkle, I'm sure you get some of these as well, of people who come in with the older accounts who just say she's guilty as sin. I asked her, I said, well, can you explain what evidence led you to conclude that beyond a reasonable doubt? And she pointed out that everybody testified to, everybody who was at the house party testified that he never came in the house. that wherever there was a fight or argument, it happened beforehand. It was all resolved. The only person who found him after the fact was Karen Reed. They point to the broken tail light pieces being found at the scene, and the fact that she had said during one of her testimonies or one of her statements was that she had hit something, that she felt like she had backed up and hit something. Now, whether that's taken perfectly in context, whether or not it doesn't excuse. So all of the Steelman arguments I've heard does not excuse nor negate the lack of investigation, the impropriety in investigation, and the failure to disclose, which is what we've had, and the outward lies by the prosecution. So I really struggle to end up agreeing with people who find her guilty.
You might want to, maybe people might not know exactly what this case is. This is Karen Reed, the Boston woman who's accused of killing her cop boyfriend, who was found out in the snow from hypothermia. They alleged that she backed him over or hit him with a car and that he died in the snow. But I think you need to flesh out the corruption and it was a hung jury the first trial around, right?
Yeah.
I'll let Runkle take over that.
Yeah. So
the
corruption, explain that.
Was really interesting because the juror in the interview demonstrates kind of a shocking lack of understanding of the criminal justice system, because in a lot of places he's like, well, the defense just didn't convince us that this, that, and it's like, well, it isn't actually that the defense has to convince you on that. It's that, they're like, well, the defense didn't convince us beyond a reasonable doubt, he says at one point. And it's like, that's not how it goes. It's not that the defense has to convince you beyond a reasonable doubt. It's that the prosecution has to prove things beyond a reasonable doubt. But they got a couple of strong personalities on that jury that were very pro conviction. And so it's actually kind of a surprising thing. The juror who was interviewed was one who said, I'm not voting for conviction. So, go pound sand. But
I had heard
a couple of
top
personalities seem to be pushing for it. So
I had heard that there was some confusion with the instructions, and I'm sorry I got distracted on Rumble. That the jury may have said not guilty on the top charge, but they hung on the second charge, but they weren't instructed to fill out the form or told to give that feedback. So the entire verdict was situation.
The top and the bottom charges, basically they said, hey, listen, we're not convicting on those we all agree. It was the middle charge, the second charge, that they wanted to acquit on the second degree murder. They wanted to acquit on the leaving the scene, but the problem is the remaining charge still would have a 20-year potential. And that this judge, who has shown every sign that she leans one way or another, would be giving close to the 20 years there. But, properly speaking, they should have polled the jury and they should have determined, oh, right, they wanted to acquit on the murder and the leaving the scene. And so they should have entered acquittals on those. And then it should have been up to the Commonwealth as to whether they wanted to run on the remaining count. But instead, she didn't ask any questions. She just brings the jury back in, is like, okay, bye, you're gone.
Mistrial.
And then the defense is like, what?
I'm guessing that you're saying that it should have been handled like Daniel Penny was, where
I didn't actually watch.
She removed the top charge because the jury had problems with it, so she removed the top charge, and the DA dismissed the top charge. She got the DA to dismiss the top charge, and then they were sent back to determine the lower. They wound up saying not guilty all around, but would that have been the proper situation there if she had asked them? Then the state could have dropped the charge or not, whatever, and then given back to the jury.
It wouldn't have been because the Commonwealth isn't dismissing anything. They want to go hard,
right?
But what it should have been is she should have said, well, did you come to a verdict on any of the charges?
Mm-hmm.
And then they would have said, well, yes, we were unanimous on 1 and 3. It's count 2 that we're deadlocked on. Then it would have been, okay, what did you decide on counts 1 and 3? And they would have said, well, we're for acquittal. Cool. Acquittal's entered. Double jeopardy applies to 1 and 3. Commonwealth, are you running on number 2? And because the Commonwealth is going hard on this one, they'd be like, yes, we're definitely doing a retrial on that.
Right.
But it would have been a whole different, it becomes a different ball game. And the thing is, to sort of steelman the sort of other side, I will say it's entirely possible that Karen Read, committed exactly what they said. It's possible. The problem is that we have a system of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And the investigation on this one was so awful. And if she did commit any or all of these offenses, people should be extremely pissed off at the police because, if you assume that she killed them, in this cold-blooded, whatever, you should be extremely pissed off that Proctor, through texting things like, talking about whether or not he found nudes on the phone and that kind of thing, and talking about his specific animus towards Karen Read, endangered the trial. You should be pissed off about whether the loss of the Sallyport video endangered the trial. And if you think she's guilty, you should be super pissed that they didn't go up and take pictures of her car before they moved it, which is like basic shit. Like, this is so basic. If you are seizing a vehicle, you take the photos before anything touches it. Like, I have had files where they just are looking at it's something basic, like they're doing a search for a gun in a car. And the first thing they do before they lay a hand on the vehicle is they walk around it taking pictures. Why they didn't do any of this, why they're using solo cups. Like, when I started watching it, I was just sitting there thinking, like, it stands up, Yannetti stands up and he says, Karen Read was framed. And I wasn't going to cover the trial until that, because then I was like, there's no way he can deliver on this. There's no way that this ends up looking anything other than ridiculous by the end of the trial, because every time you make an argument that the police framed somebody, it gets like blown apart unless there's something really stupid that keeps it from going to trial, like video on a dash cam of a cop planting a gun or something. And those ones don't generally go to trial. I got to the end and I'm like, how is this still plausible?
So you're being really generous with the misconduct, like really generous. So here's what happens, okay? They show up on the scene eventually. They get there and they come and they collect the blood sample, the alleged blood samples, with red Solo cups, and they put them in an open grocery bag in the back of the patrol car, drive said red Solo cups back to the Sallyport and leave them in the Sallyport so that the cups with the blood are sitting right next to her vehicle by the time they come and take the vehicle. So so forget about anything with cross-contamination. And this, you left out the best part, the leaf blower. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So as they're collecting these red drops of blood, they decide to go borrow a neighbor's leaf blower, and they come and they leaf blow the surrounding snow to collect more blood samples. Did they even take pictures of where the body was? I can't recall.
Hold on, stop for a second. Are they leaf blowing to melt the snow or to blow the snow away?
To blow the snow away.
The snow away. Layers of snow.
And leave the pooled congealed blood part?
Yes, and collect it with the red Solo cup. You're hearing this right.
And now I'm going to ask an obvious, stupid question. Sure. Were the red Solo cups used from the party from the night before, or are they a sterile Solo cup?
They went to, like, I think it was another person. It was just a person nearby, but I think he was tangentially connected to the police force somehow. And they're like, do you have any containers that we could use to...
Right.
And the guy's like, I got some Solo cups. And they're like, great.
Perfect.
So there's no photos of where the body is. Okay. They don't take any crime scene photos of where the body was laying in the snow, where it landed. They then come back and take photos later. The pieces of plastic for the taillight are discovered like 2 weeks later, I think, after investigators are just driving by and they're like, oh, look at these plastic pieces on the ground. They never went inside the home and investigated the home where the party was.
Whose party was it? I think that's relevant.
So this is important. This is the Albert's home, right, Runkle?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
this is the Albert home, and they are super related to everyone in this case, including the lead investigator. Oh, and for me, the kicker in terms of evidence, by the way, the one that I will never let go, and I go, she's innocent. She's freaking innocent, is the pig DNA being found on the victim. And you might be asking yourself, well, how the hell did pig DNA end up on the victim, right?
dog treats.
Doggy treats. Just so happens that the Alberts have this dog named Chloe, and she's a failed police dog. Well, Chloe suddenly gets rehomed magically within like a week or like the next day after this death. She's just missing. She's gone somewhere upstate. Bye-bye, Chloe. And we never hear from Chloe again. I mean, it's so, here's my theory. Okay, I'm going to throw this out here. My theory based on what we've heard in the evidence is something happened in the house. He went in the house. He was drunk. Something happened. Dog ended up biting and attacking him. He gets kicked out of the house. I honestly don't think anyone murdered this guy. I think he gets kicked out of the house. He stumbles out of the house. He's bleeding. He's been bit by a dog. He's super wasted. He falls asleep he falls in the snow and dies. Honestly.
I mean, my theory is he got into a fist fight. The dog bites him as a result of like you get into a fight with somebody who owns a dog, the dog picks a side, and the dog is going to pick the side of the homeowner every time, right? At one point, somebody came to the house and was making my wife really uncomfortable, and our dog, who was an absolute sweetheart, was like, lips pulled back to his ears. So, and I think he leaves the place. I think everyone is like, okay, I know there's a theory that like he was dragged out there. I don't know that I, necessarily buy the dragged out there, but it's possible.
He does have head injury on the report when they look at his autopsy. So it could have been that he was hit in the head and asked to leave, or that he fell going down the stairs, or keep going, Runkle, sorry.
Or he gets, head injury, especially the back of the head, is a very common injury in a fight because you get hit, you fall backwards. And it's actually a way that a lot of people end up going to jail for like forever in a bar fight, because you get hit, you fall on the back of your head, you can die from that. So maybe he passes out and they're just like, we need to get him out of the house, and they pull him out of the house. Or maybe he gets up. Maybe he is like, I'm out of here, like you guys are freaking crazy, and he's got a head injury and he walks out into the snow and passes out. And then everyone later is like, where'd he go? And he just doesn't make it far because he passes out, and passing out in the snow is super it's super risky. We here in Canada, we've got cold. I get how that goes. So, but I mean, the thing is I can't give you a 100% this is what happened, but that's what acquittal looks like in a trial.
We forgot the Google search, the how's long to die in the cold.
Yes.
And that was Jen McCabe, right? And she was in the house at the time. And this was at before she was in the house. And then I think she had searched this at like 3 a.m. How's long to die in cold?
There is substantial dispute as to how that search happened, but they
hold on, Ian, what's the dispute as to how that search happened? Presumably it's black and white.
So, basically they've got technical experts arguing this, and the one side, Karen Reid's side, says that this happens at 2 a.m., which is a point where theoretically Jen McCabe should not know that anybody is dying in the cold. She should be thinking that, John O'Keefe is home safe and sound, right? And everything's cool. So if she does that search at that time, then Karen Reid is 100% innocent. The problem is that they've got technical experts who say that search wasn't conducted at that time, that was just when she opens the window, and that there's this other search for Hockomock Sports. I don't know, it's a whole thing there, but and that instead this search is performed, and they say that the search is that Karen Reid grabs Jen McCabe's phone and searches in the phone, and it's like, why is she searching in the like, why would you use somebody else's phone?
So wait, you're saying,
to
okay,
search
hold
that?
on. The claim
So
is
Karen
that I
Reed
said,
came back
hey,
in
let
the
me
morning.
borrow your phone for a
Yeah.
minute so I can search how long it takes
Yes.
somebody
That's
to die
their
in the phone.
claim. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh.
That's their claim. So this is the thing. It takes more logical, like illogical assumptions. I should say it takes more assumptions to get to the state story than it does to assume we don't know exactly what happened, which is the most reasonable answer here. Nobody knows exactly what happened, and we can't say that she hit him with the car, and that's the cause of his death.
And out of thousands of text messages on Jen McCabe's phone, she's deleted one text message in the history of time, which is the Haas long to die in the cold text message. And it's really weird that you would delete that one, because why would you delete the text message that you think is evidence of a murder of your friend unless you are connected to the murder of your friend, right? Because
Well, hold on. Was she protecting Karen Reed by deleting that? Or was she testifying
she
against
says
Karen
that
Reed?
she's
She
testifying
hates
against
Karen Reed.
She hates Karen Reed
He
so
hates
much.
Karen Reed so much.
Okay.
And so it's
Oh,
like,
and all the
you know,
butt dials. I forgot about that.
if like Viva was murdered and I had evidence of that, if I wasn't connected to the murder, I would want the murderer to, and I'd be like, police officer, you need to see this, not delete, right? It makes no sense at all when you try to like. So when I look at their story, oh yes, and they have all of these like mystery phone calls that happen in sort of the critical period, and a bunch of them took their phones, like one of them took their phone off to a military base to throw it out. And so just to create a little jurisdictional problem, like he
just so
doesn't
you guys
throw it
know.
out at home, he takes it off to a military base.
Was this person
But
a cop?
Yes.
All
So
of
he
them
would
are-
have obvious knowledge of a jurisdictional problem that might be created.
Yep. And they all
And,
are very well aware too of the paperwork that's entailed when the dog ends up biting their friend, when they end
Yeah.
up getting in a fight with their friend, punching their friend and kicking them out of the house. They are all very keenly aware of how much of a piece of like nightmare that's going to be the next day.
the
saying.
other wonderful, like bizarre, they have all these phone calls between each other during like this critical period where it would be like, if he's in trouble, then that's the critical moment. And when asked about these phone calls, they are all like, it's a butt dial. And the thing is that like some of these butt dials that they're claiming,
2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute butt
some
dials.
of them are like extensively long, but also like the one of them is they're sleeping next to his wife, and he says that the phone, like, you know, everybody takes their phone and they put it on the bedside, you know, the nightstand. But he says that no, he sleeps with the phone in the bed, and that's how it would have gotten butt dialed.
That's how you
because
get testicular cancer, people. Don't do that, by the way.
It was like, how do you get a butt dial if the phone is up on?
Does he
like,
sleep
no,
alone?
Would have been with his wife.
Oh,
And
that
I'm
must be
like,
fun. So are they recording activities? I'm curious.
I think that the only explanation for how they could accidentally get a butt dial there is if the phone is on voice activation and his wife was screaming somebody else's name and the phone was just like, okay, dialing. It makes no sense. I've been saying that this is the town where everyone has a prehensile asshole because
Whoa.
otherwise, how do you get all of these butt dials? It's
Ian, I have a question for you about the motion to dismiss brought. And my understanding is that the missing videos were not missing as of June 2024, that the investigator had downloaded them for his own purposes to defend himself in the event that because he had heard that there were accusations of misconduct. So naturally, rather than handing over all the phone evidence to the defense, you know, like he should have done before the trial, he instead decides to download it all for himself. And then those files are later overwritten. That's how I understood that to work out. Can you assure me that that's how I understood was correct? That what I understood was correct?
I don't know. I haven't heard the thing about like he suspected, you know, whatever, but it is weird because
that's
they
what
have
the
this video
prosecution
recorder.
argued.
Yeah, and I don't know that I put much weight in things he says because he's sort of had a very casual relationship with the truth.
Oh, he is Eric, this man is the worst effing liar. He goes off. He tells the judge last week what caused the judge to storm off and be like, "Oh, we'll come back next week." She's all mad, huffy puffy. She leaves. And what caused that is he said, well, we just got evidence from the feds that wasn't disclosed to us until the feds disclosed it. Went off on a 10-minute tangent and rant about reciprocal discovery and how the defense isn't following the rules, only to then admit after she asks him. So had she not asked, he wouldn't have admitted this. She asks him for clarification. He goes, actually, it's the defense that gave that to us. So it wasn't the feds at all. It was the defense in the first place. They were following the rules. It's just, okay, sorry, keep going. I'll shut up. It's just crazy.
I mean, it's
how
nuts.
How did they decide to try her again after the hung verdict? I mean, what new evidence, if any,
they hate her, and so they're gonna just go hard. Basically, the problem is at this point is, and this is one of the issues with publicity, is that it's helped her defend herself, but it also has a flip side to it, which is that if she is acquitted, there's going to be a lot of people going, what is with the policing there? And so to defend the policing, they have to get a conviction. They're like, she has to go to jail because otherwise people are going to ask all of these cops questions about A, are you capable of doing your job? Like, just on a basic level, are you capable of investigating a crime at all? And B, is there massive corruption within the police department? Because if this is a frame-up, it involves a whole lot of people getting together to be like, well, we can't have a cop involved. And they actually make a text like that about, like, you know, what about, because they find this body on somebody's front lawn. And they're like, well, what about the homeowner? And they say something along the lines of, well, he's not going to have any problems. He's a Canton police officer. Which is just like, what? Because, I mean, I'm just going to say, and they never even ask to search the house. They're just like, well, we wouldn't have had enough to get a warrant. The thing is that they do consent searches all the time. All the time.
It's the scene of the damn crime. It's the last place he was seen. This is insane. And all they had to have done was ask. Hey,
yep. And the thing is,
can we come take a look?
If you assume Karen Reid is guilty, then the failure to ask for to have a look around has actually been a tremendous disservice to this police officer, because if you assume she's guilty, wouldn't it have been amazing for this cop to have just walked around, taken pictures, and just been like, see, there's no signs of a fight, there's no blood in here, there's no anything, nothing happened in here, and they could have absolutely established that if Karen Reid is guilty and if they did basic policing, but they didn't. It is so in my neighborhood with, you know, Canadian police who, whatever, we can argue about their, there was a break and enter down the street, and they went down the street asking people if they saw anything, and they asked if they could look around in my house to see if any of the missing stuff was there. And I told them to go pound sand. But the notion that if there was a dead person on my front lawn, that they wouldn't have been like, we would really like to have a look around, is just bizarre to me.
Well,
maybe
even
on
if
the
you
lawn,
told
maybe on the curb.
Shouldn't there be a search warrant? I mean, that seems to be reasonable enough suspicion to warrant looking inside the house to see if it could be tied to the person dead on the ground.
I mean, if I was the cops, I would have asked for the consent search, and maybe they say yes, maybe they say no, but I would have applied for the warrant regardless. Even if my evidence was, I thought, thin, I would have asked for the warrant. And then if you get the warrant, you go and you have a look around, right? And if you don't get the warrant, at least when somebody comes back to you and is like, why didn't you search the house? You can say, I asked him if I could search the house. He said no. I applied for a warrant. The court said no. That's all I can do, right? But instead, they seem to just be like, yeah, this guy's a cop. We're not going to bother him too much.
Also, wouldn't a warrant be advisable not only to inform the police if it could have happened, but also to rule out the homeowner? So, I mean, it's the same way that, you know, body cam footage half the time works in the cop's favor, half the time it works in the other person's favor when there's an encounter. You know, it could go either way. It's just a matter of getting the truth.
But they're not interested in that. If there is one thing I can say about the prior trial and this one, there is zero interest in getting to the truth or to having a better understanding of the truth. There is zero interest by the judge, by the prosecution, by the investigator, by anyone but the defense team. It is so disturbing, the rulings that this judge has made, how she has landed on each and every one of those things. She just allowed the same expert who testified before to come in and testify again. Guess what this guy is an expert in? He's a friggin' Caesar Milan type, okay? He's going around going, that's good, that's good. Okay?
A dog trainer?
That is his whole shtick, okay? He's a dog behavioralist, and they are allowing him to come in and testify.
Has he ever met the dog?
No. He's allowed, though, to come and testify about a dog bite, and a dog, more specifically, dog bite injury. I'll let you take over, Runkle.
So previously, they wanted to have testimony from the ARCA experts, which were hired by the FBI, they're crash reconstruction guys. And she said, because they're not medical experts, the law of the land is that you cannot testify about causation of an injury unless you have a medical degree. That's a requirement by law. And so therefore, they can testify about all sorts of things, but they cannot testify as to the causation of the injuries of John O'Keefe. Okay, fine. That's her ruling, and it does actually appear to be backed up by Massachusetts law, so great. The problem is that then they get this guy who's like literally dog behavior, like as she says, it's Caesar Milan. It's, he deals with like teaching dangerous dogs to not bite people as much.
Well, right. Now, if he worked with a dog, I could see that being relevant. If he was a dog trainer and he had worked with a dog, then he would be familiar. But I don't see how somebody who's never met the dog could be helpful.
He had access to a mold of the dog's teeth. And so, but he's going to testify that the bite injuries they look very, very clearly like a bite. Like my clients sometimes get bitten by police dogs. And so then I get pictures of the injuries from the bites, and it looks exactly like the injuries on John O'Keefe's arm. But this guy's going to come in and say that is not a dog bite injury. So he's going to testify directly as to causation of an injury without a medical degree, because apparently the judge's rulings just only apply on one side. It is such an obvious and palpable bit of hypocrisy that just screams bias. And I have been reluctant. People have been saying she's biased, and I'm like, she's a judge. She's got a lean. And this one just makes me go, this is bias. Like, this is, like, at this point, I'm just like, how can she be judging this when she's making this kind of discordant ruling? It's insane.
Well, and it's also just the way she conducts these hearings as well. And things like that seem minor but add up to a lot. When you're in the middle of making your argument and the judge keeps asking questions, keeps interrupting you, and then keeps saying things like, well, where are we? Where's the page? I'll need a copy of that. Well, where's the timestamp on that? Where's this? And she doesn't do it at all to the prosecution at all.
What's
As a matter of fact, the prosecution, when she does ask, will go, I think it came. So most recently, the prosecution had claimed that Karen Reid's counsel had said something that may have biased a potential jury. And in making these comments, it was inappropriate. And that he had made it during a TV interview. Turns out, no, he made the comments during a judicial proceeding, during one of the proceedings. And she asked him, well, can you send me the interview? And he's like, yeah, I'll get on that. It's like, what is he going to send you, dummy? He's going to send you the transcript from the court if he finds it at all. But she'll never check. She'll never go back and take a look-sees. She doesn't care. It's so mind-numbing to watch and so frustrating to watch as someone who has dealt with biased judges in the past, where they certainly have an indicated lean. Even in those cases where I've been in those situations, It is not so egregious as this. Not anywhere near this. I've never in practice encountered a judge like this. It's really bad, Eric. It's just trust me,
is
it's
she a
bad.
former prosecutor, the judge, or former defense attorney? Because that can sometimes.
Actually, she was a former attorney. It all shocks me, to be honest, because there's so many aspects of her rulings where you can tell she didn't even look at the law. She never looked at the code. She didn't look at the cases that were cited. She never reviewed them. And it's so funny because she asked for all this paper. Oh, and then the prosecution, like last week or 2 weeks ago, asked for an extension to reply. And then the judge turns to the defense and says, okay, how many days do you need? And literally huffs like that, asks it with that tone, how many days do you need? And she goes, oh, as many as, I need this many. And she goes, oh, well, that's a really long time. We're trying to be expeditious. And she goes, you literally just gave that amount of time to the prosecution. And she goes, oh, well, then that's fine. And it's just, I'm
Well, that's why I asked if she was a former prosecutor or not, because what you're describing sounds like somebody who may be acting as if they're a prosecutor herself,
but she seems to be a current one.
Well, exactly. I'm just wondering. Okay, well, somebody asked this. I'm not familiar with it. Are you guys covering the Slender Man trial? I've never heard of that.
Oh, hold on. One last question before we go. The Karen Reid's trial is being broadcast again, right? This time it's people are live streaming it.
Yeah, it was live broadcast. It's all indications. I mean, unless she decides last minute that she's going to ban it, but.
And what is, because it's amazing that it's a level of corruption that should have public appeal. What are is Emily Baker covering this? Who is covering it?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, well, Emily.
Everybody.
Okay, cool. And is there? I'm not getting involved in it, but is there meaningful public interest, or is it not? Is it not a Johnny Depp trial?
It's not quite Johnny Depp, but there's meaningful interest.
Nothing's Johnny Depp.
There's huge interest, but it's not.
Well,
nothing's ever going to be Johnny Depp again. But
the first Karen Reid was wildly viewed. I just don't know if people have fatigued and moved on from part 2 of
Vices. I think did a lot on that too, right, Jeff?
Jeff was the one who was like, Danny, you have to learn about this trial. He's like, you have to get in here. And the minute they pulled out the snow blower or the leaf blower, I could not stop laughing. I was just dumbstruck. And they have video of it too. They have video of the car before it's brought into police custody. They don't have video of her coming and leaving the house on the night in question. They don't have video of anything regarding Karen Reid, but they do have video of this idiot cop walking around, fumbling around with this leaf blower around in the snow.
Can we?
Is there any anti-Karen Reid coverage? I'm just curious.
No, I haven't been able to find any lawyer, and it's funny because
the prosecutor's podcast, I think, is what it's called.
Okay, they're on side for the whole prosecution.
Yeah, they're 100% bought and sold. This woman did it, and the prosecution can do nothing wrong, and they are perfect childs. Money, please. So
fair.
Okay, I just wanted to find it out, in case people want to, watch back and forth. I don't know.
It's tough, and it's funny because I had a prosecutor here, a Canadian prosecutor, who was telling me that there's no way that this trial is as bad as whatever, that, he's like, you being online has changed your, you've lost your objectivity. And I was like, watch it. So he watched it and he sent me back something. He's like, what is wrong with this police department? And I was like, do you see? He's like, no, I get it. This is crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it's so there's always the accusation from people who are upset with the coverage, and they go, hey, you guys are just grifting. That's the allegation. And the thing is, Danny's covering this, I'm covering this. I do it with recaps, in the evening because I got court in the day. Emily's covering this, lawyer, everybody is talking about this one.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
when you think about the grift, it's like there's one pie for all the people who are like on Karen Reid's side, which is being sliced
Right.
into a million tiny slivers. If I wanted to grift this, I'd be on the other side going, I'm going to take the entirety of everybody who wants to, who wants to see her convicted. And it just really stuns me that people don't understand, like, the lawyers take a side not because there's money in it, but because, and often we take a side that the money is the worst on. So they don't get it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just that we watch this trial, and like, I've had multiple prosecutors reach out to just be like, I would never run this. I would kill this file so fast because there just isn't a case left.
Is Legal? Someone in our locals community wants to know what Legal's take on it was. Is he covering this?
I don't think he covered it.
I have not watched a Legal
I don't think he
video
does.
Okay.
And he does one-off stuff. I think.
He doesn't. I've never seen him like live stream commentate. Really, it's He
does like single videos.
Before we get into Slenderman, can we bump it back up to Canada? Because on my side, they were asking if Ian, you've been following the dismissal of the contestation of the prorogation of Parliament.
I did, and that was.
I'm sorry.
Tell me exactly what that
that
means.
a little slower.
Let's back up.
Okay, to explain for the Americans. So
we'll back up. The Canadian Parliament is a parliamentary system, and when they end a session of government for one reason or the other, unless it's calling an election, it's called proroguing Parliament. You end the session, all pending bills die. They call a break, they reorganize, reschedule, recalibrate, and then they call a new session. The bills that have died are dead. You can start them again. Investigations that were live are dead, and you can start them again. It's what Boris Johnson did in the UK when he prorogued Parliament during the Brexit fiasco, scandal, whatever, crisis.
You can just call this? Like, you could just be
call
like...
it whenever you want. It's basically... what is it? Who approves it?
It's literally a game timeout, right? Because it's like hey, timeout, and the clock's still running. There's still like something to be lost for one team or another.
It's a semi-timeout because when they're prorogued, they can't meet to pass new bills, but they do still have various powers, which is why you've got Trudeau, who's still like negotiating poorly with Trump. Why you've got Trudeau, why they're able to do things like ban additional guns via an order in council. They still have a lot of power. It's just they just banned like more than 100 new models of guns today. So
Danny, our government has been prorogued since, when was it? January 5th? It's been prorogued for a couple of months, and it's going to be prorogued. It's still out of session until March 24th. And so
how do you bring it back?
Well, they recess it or they prorogue for a specific set period of time. Then they got to come back and start a new session.
Okay.
Now it's discretionary, but it's sort of like executive discretionary. He can do it, and you don't.
Hold on. So is this literally a way to shut down any opposition you might have?
Yes,
and just
yes, that is exactly what they're
doing. It's a way to recalibrate, re-strategize, and then you come back and you start from scratch if you had some bills or investigations that were suspicious. It's been done. It's never been challenged in Canada. When Boris Johnson prorogued Parliament, they challenged it, and the unanimous decision at the time was that his prorogation of Parliament was abusive or unlawful, and they ordered the government to reconvene so they could deal with the Brexit crisis.
That just sounds scary to me, because it sounds like a way to just say, oh, you nasty Parliament, I don't want to deal with you right now, so I'll just shut it down, say a timeout, and then I'll just pass things on my own and just do whatever the hell I want.
What was happening was that they weren't able to get anything done because they had been ordered to provide documents on this green slush fund. So basically they had a bunch of money that was for green projects that just kind of went into like a big piggy bank that they were absolutely...
We have one of those too, a few. We get it.
But they were required to provide documents, and all of the opposing parties were saying, you have to provide the documents. And they actually got a ruling from the Speaker of the House, who is a liberal, which was, you have to provide the documents. And so until they provided the documents, nothing was going ahead. So they're like, well, we're going to prorogue. And then Trudeau steps down, and they're using the prorogation time to do this whole leadership contest, wherein they pretend that there's really a contest, but their anointed figure of Mark Carney's going to take over. They've decided he's the thing, and so yeah, that's fun.
Oh yeah, this is a great thing that somebody's pointing out. If you don't agree with something that Ian is saying, remember he owns a flamethrower now. And by the way, can I point out the irony that it's very difficult to have any kind of gun in Canada, but flamethrowers, no problem.
Guaranteed.
I've got one in the other room.
That is a registered, highly regulated flamethrower that has a maximum flame distance of 6 feet or 2 meters, as they say in Canada.
50 feet is what it says on the
50
box.
feet, dude, that's pretty good.
He's got one of the therapeutic flamethrowers, like that one.
Therapeutic. Okay.
What do they call a service flamethrower? They have. Okay, I'm joking.
It's my emotional support flamethrower.
Wow. So okay, but you also have the NVGs or night vision goggles or nods or whatever you call them. Remember, Ian, don't wear them at the same time.
No,
don't
that would be a bad combo. Flamethrower.
So anyway, word of advice for the day. All right, so Slender Man, is that something people are covering? I don't even know anything about it.
I thought that trial was done. Are we talking about a review of the release? Because this is a case of 2 young girls who went out into the woods with their little friend, and they alleged that they were being controlled by Slender Man, which is a copy pasta type scary story about this guy who just goes and steals and kills kids. Okay. And so these girls go out into the woods and they end up stabbing their friend almost to death. By a miracle, she survives. But both girls are tried, and I think they each got 25, 30-year sentences. It is a review, of her release. So one of the girls claimed that she was psychotic and that she basically had all these mental problems. She was hearing voices and that Slender Man told her to do this. The other girl was basically just going along with it. Now, I think that the one that they're looking at releasing is the one who just 40-year sentences. Thank you, Jeremiah. I think the one that they are considering releasing is the one who was not the ringleader, not the one who was on top of the girl doing most of the stabbing, but the one who was sort of following along. And so this is a decision as to whether or not she should be released. Now, in my personal opinion, regardless, if she was susceptible enough to follow this other girl into committing this heinous act, I have serious concerns about her safety in public as a young adult. I don't know what the conditions of release are going to be. I'll have to take a look at that, but I would hope that they're very, very
somebody's
stringent.
saying it's the ringleader. They already let the other one out. They already let the other one out. Ugh.
I can't. This is the I have no words. I have no words. This poor young woman, I can't even imagine what her and her family must be going through right now. I'll have to cover that. That's so disturbing. Thank you for the heads up, you guys. I didn't realize. I knew that they had tried back in 2020 or 2021. I didn't know it was back up again.
Let me guess, COVID overpopulation. How many people, somebody should do a study on this. I'm serious about how many really sick, hardcore felons managed to sneak out during the COVID prison population issues. And I'll give you an example. There was a cop killer in Virginia, in Richmond, and it wasn't like a shootout type of thing. This guy quite literally executed a cop. It was like, the cop pulled him over. He went and, just bang, just shot him in the head, cold-blooded. He was on death row. Okay. It was that kind of a case. The death row sentence somehow got overturned or something happened. They were going to let him out during COVID. There's another case where there's this pharmacist. I don't know if you've ever heard of this one. It got overshadowed because of 9/11. There's a lot of cases that kind of got overshadowed with 9/11 that people, like the McDonald's monopoly scam, everybody forgot about because of 9/11. This pharmacist, what his scam was, he got experimental cancer treatments that cost an extreme amount of money, and he was like putting in sugar pills, mixing it in, and collecting money from people, from cancer patients who are literally dying. It's so disturbing. He was going to be let out again because of COVID. So I would be curious if somebody put together a list of people who got out. Now I think both those two were stopped because somebody managed to get in there and say, "What the hell are you doing? Are you crazy?" But I don't think everything was stopped.
Here at the county jail, they were releasing people en masse. They were like 200, 300 a day. And it was happening all over the country. I mean, it was when I ran in 2022, looking back at the numbers of 2020, it was historically high crime rates, specifically in violent crime. And you saw escalations in crime. So people who had gone to jail for violent offenses were then being released and then going back to jail for actual murder. So they were basically finishing what they had started, and that it's just a natural consequence and a reasonable expectation that there was an intent, I think, to destroy communities on a local level. And it's sad because it's so diffuse and so widespread that I think it's really not well reported on. But Eric, that's an interesting point. I want to go look that up.
Yeah, it just seems like, and it seems like there'll probably be a lot of content. I may do that too. I mean, there's some content for you because a lot of people sliding through the cracks. It's just, it's bonkers. And I bring this up because there's one who came up for parole. I think it's been stalled, but Stephanie Lazarus. I don't know if you've heard of her. Stephanie Lazarus was a cop, and in California in the 80s, brutally beat and killed her lover's wife.
Oh my God.
She was with this guy. It was like a lover. He moved on from her, got married or whatever. Was so enraged she killed this person. I mean, it's really, 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 really brutal thing. She was on the police force. Now, this woman is very famous because her interrogation is online, and the behavior panel did it and others did it, and she looks completely bonkers. I mean, she's like this. You probably have seen her shot online. If I pulled it up, you'd be like, "Oh God, yeah, I've seen that woman, that picture."
What was her name again, Eric?
Stephanie Lazarus.
Okay.
If you could look it up while I'm talking. Mark, my partner on America's Untold Stories, actually interviewed her the day before or the day she was arrested, because it was a cold case, had gone cold for a while. She was about to take over the art department in the LA Police Department. So she was being promoted up, and they caught her. And this is like in 2010 timeframe. Well, they're talking about releasing her now. So she got away with murder literally for years. There we go. There's Stephanie.
Okay,
Stephanie.
I just saw one very brief clip. I'll read the line.
Let me think. God, it's been a long time ago.
She kind of looks like the mother.
I may have met her. Geez.
The words gosh, God, gee are exclamatory remarks used to express surprise or strong emotion. You will see them used continuously throughout this interrogation, which is the suspect trying to insinuate a vague memory due to a lack of contemplation on the subject matter. She's trying to emit the impression that...
Yeah, that's...
Oh, no, you want to see her face for a second.
How long did you guys date?
I mean, are you guys... Is this something...
As we know,
okay,
Stephanie...
She looks crazy.
No, there's a lot of shots. You can find still images of really... I mean, she really is super expressive and looks bonkers.
Her victim was pregnant, says Jenny C. over in Rumble. I have no knowledge of that case.
And yeah, that's JC.
Oh, I hope she rots in hell.
Well, right now, she's fortunately rotting in prison. I'd like to keep her there.
Yeah.
It is so completely crazy if you consider things like Sirhan, right? Sirhan, very famously, everybody claims that he killed RFK. I actually don't think he killed RFK. RFK Jr. doesn't think he killed RFK. The guy he actually did shoot Paul Schrade in the head. Sirhan shot Paul Schrade in the head,
and he survived.
He survived. He just died though. He was like 93. But anyway, he survived. He was fighting to get Sirhan Sirhan released because Sirhan Sirhan could not have killed RFK. But however you look at it, Sirhan Sirhan has been in prison since like 68. The Menendez brothers, it looks like they're going to be released. They were not even born when Sirhan Sirhan went in. So this guy, very deep into his 70s and all that, he can't get out. But with Stephanie Lazarus, she can get out, no problem.
Sorry, you know this more. I think I know the answer to this, but how does one get shot in the head and not die? Like, was there a gunpowder issue?
A smaller caliber, angle. There are a lot of people who have survived headshots.
I was wondering in this particular case if it was an indication as to how he couldn't have killed RFK either because his ammo.
Because he was on the opposite side. So, okay, he shot Paul Schrade. He was in front of RFK Jr. RFK Jr. took a shot to his back and a shot to the back of his head. So it's, unless he's a masterful bank shooter and it reflected around the room, it was not possible Sirhan could have shot him. He shot Schrade and into the others. They tackled him and he was held down. He kept pulling the trigger famously.
Speaking of conspiracy theories, I think we're all in different silos here. Is everybody following? Oh, first of all, Ginger Ninja just had a baby the day before yesterday.
Congratulations!
Congratulations,
Ginger. You told me it's number 2 or 3. I definitely 2 or 3. I forget now. Anyhow, I got pictures. It's a beautiful. He is a beautiful baby. Does everybody know who Ian Carroll is? Can I bring this one in gratuitously?
Oh boy, what do you want to go into?
No, I just want to go. I just noticed everybody's accusing him of being like a, rising to fame, being a suspicious character. Messaging. I just noticed this today. Pete, look at this. You look at this. Okay. Nio Berg says, has this guy ever spoken about Qatari money? Another guy, Max Nordo, who I know from the DeSantis fight, says, you never hear him talk about Qatar. Same picture, same message. Then you got Eyal Yacobi. Qatar has given hundreds of billions. Has he ever talked about Qatar? Then you got this other guy who says, make it your own as far as the messaging goes, if this is coordinated messaging, saying, is this guy talking about Qatar? I just thought this was totally weird because it comes up in my feed, so maybe I'm just noticing what the feed recommends, and it.
David, in fairness, Nick Fuentes was just bragging about. Isn't it amazing that we had Ian Carroll on Joe Rogan, Candace Owens on Theo Vaughn, somebody? So we've got coordinated messaging on two sides of whatever equation. I don't know if I'd want to dig too deep into that one. Personally,
I'm not digging into the legitimacy of the claim. I think the coordinated messaging clearly seems to be coming from the side making the accusation of coordinated messaging, quite literally. But it's just weird to see the messaging come out. I guess it's the nature of the industry. When someone succeeds, everyone has to find nefarious reasons and not just.
Well, if you've been watching him for a while, David,
I haven't.
He has a certain viewpoint that he's very clear with, and it's very consistent, and it's been going for years. I've seen a lot of the clips. He really doesn't like a particular country, and he's very, very, very vocal about it.
Israel?
And a lot of people do like that country, and they're very vocal the other way. So
is it Israel?
Of course.
Yeah, he's critical.
Oh, he's always Israel.
He's critical of America, Israel.
No, I've seen his other stuff being critical of some global elites, which I think is appropriate. I mean, as long as it's. I've told this to Ron Coleman a million times. I have like Jew blinders on. I don't know why, but it's a total blind spot in my life. I've never heard of like Jew conspiracies or any of that. And so
you're lucky.
I know. I'm from Utah. You would think.
No, like, that might.
Maybe I would get it, but like I'm under a rock in terms of those conspiracies. And so I do what bothers me is that everybody ties that to anti-Semitism when it's like, wait a second, no, there are legitimate concerns that some of these global elites are engaged in. And everybody now is able to say, well, the global elites, it's a dog whistle to this other thing. And it's like, wait a second.
It can be. Here's the problem. It can be and often is, depending on who you're talking about. Like, I don't think David's going to be up in the corner defending Nick Fuentes. And say Nick Fuentes is only just pointing out problems with Israel, when every time he starts talking, you just keep listening for a while, the word Jews drops in. It's like this impulse thing that just drops in.
He might have an obsession. it doesn't mean, I mean, I'm not going to defend him as a human. I don't need to, but it's not the case that because someone has an obsession, even an unhealthy one, and is even wrong and promotes propaganda, that everything they say is therefore wrong.
Sure.
Oh, broker talks are right twice a day. Sure.
Yeah. And he's an unreliable source as far as I'm concerned. Ian, whether or not he has an emphasis on certain countries in particular, the thing is, he talks about Israel, US, UK.
What's ironic, though, is even Whitney Webb, who he was quoting on Joe Rogan, pointed out that he left out half of her statements, that he focused only on Mossad, whereas she is writing saying, no. It's the CIA. It's organized crime, and she does say Jewish as well. It is a organized, type of cabal situation. He tends to just parse out the particular part. And again, this is Whitney Webb. I'm not necessarily a fan of her, but he was quoting her as a source, and his own source is saying, "Hey,
but honey, the issue is, however, like I pick on China a lot because it's a corrupt government. That doesn't make me anti-Chinese. So, like, the idea is,
well, you could be anti-Chinese. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, there is
anti-China government. There's nothing wrong with being anti-China government.
That's exactly what we're saying. Like,
but you're not necessarily racist against Asians, I think, is what you're trying to claim. Which
Chinese in particular, because we're talking about one country and one government.
Right.
And so the issue is, like, he's complaining. He is going after the countries of political military power. Sure. It's going to involve Israel. Well, period. And so
they have space lasers,
but also us. It involves us.
Yeah,
it involves
stereotypes.
If you take like Epstein, right? A lot of people.
But they actually do have space. Like we have space lasers too. I work for Raytheon. Like I helped with a lot of this stuff, and specifically in trade compliance with weapons. So like I can tell you who the major players are. Like it's not a conspiracy that a lot of our friends are reselling our weapons on the black market. Whether that be Ukraine or Turkey we're technically not allowed to sell to, right? But how's Turkey getting a hold of all of our weaponry, right? There's a lot there. So I'll tell you right now, I'm going to take my hands off this. This is a level of conspiracy I don't play in. I only play in certainties with conspiracies. You know who I'm certain? There's one conspiracy I'm 100% certain of, and I have to say it because there's two Canadians on this show. Justin Trudeau, I know who his daddy is. We all know it's Fidel Castro. There's no question in my mind. I will bank my career on this. I will bank my life on it. That is how certain I am that when Fidel Castro, you have a picture of him holding up Justin Trudeau. He looks like the happiest dad, proudest dad in the world. 100%.
But then very similar.
You do know that. I mean, you not to say like you do know, like, how do you not know this? His mom slept around like it was great. They had sex parties.
Yeah. Oh, no, they were totally blinking. He's like all over him. He's like looking over his shoulder downwards. Okay, like those are good. Can we stay in fun conspiracy world that we're certain
the best conspiracy theory, which
that one's fun.
That one's fun. The one that's, I believe, is also not fun but true is that Justin Trudeau had an unlawful relationship with a student, which resulted in him signing an NDA and leaving that school that he was teaching at. That is one of the unconfirmed.
What about his brother's odd death? Why don't we get into some of the
there was I asked
really, and his relationship, by the way, how about his relationship with his mother? I have never looked at a more loving look between two people like he and his mother. It was very weird.
Oh, Trudeau and his mother, after his brother died, she was like, they were like, look, it was like she had the son that she loved left. It's a terrible thing. Yeah. I asked his other brother, Kyle Kemper, who's a hardcore Maha and now very, very happy to be on board with the MAGA. It's Trudeau's half brother. They come from the same mother. No, hold on a second. Who do they share?
Ian's tuning out, so we might be in danger.
Sorry,
they're half brothers. They share
conspiracy theory.
Who do they share? A mother or a father? I think they share the mother. They share the mother. And I asked Ian like straight up. He said the conspiracy theories about the brother are untrue. It was an avalanche, and that's it. And he died. And then I asked him about, he wouldn't get into the conspiracy theory about Trudeau and whether or not there's any truth to the allegations that he had improper relations with a student, which led to his, I personally believe it. And I know that it's unsubstantiated and there's a fake article on something called like the Beaverton, which said, oh, we got the NDA. It's a small world. I personally believe it. but it has not been proven. But that's one that would, there's really serious rumorings and suspicions and conspiracies as to how that NDA has never been released and so on and so forth.
I'll take a look at that one. See, that stuff interests me.
Well, how about Prince Harry's father, if you're going to go into it? There's big questions.
What about Prince Harry's father?
What about Prince Harry's father?
You haven't seen.
I need to make a list.
Well, Princess Di had a coach or whatever, and the guy is the spitting image of Prince Harry.
I had heard of this one. No, I've heard of this one. Yeah, see, these are good conspiracies. Another good thing to think about too is even if you believe that like Israel's involved in everything in world politics, which they very well may be.
They're part of the Five Eyes. I mean,
just like the CIA, just like anyone else. Let's say that they are, and let's say that Epstein is tied to that. Does it not concern us more that our government allowed this to happen and knew about this for decades and continued to hide it and continued to allow it?
The U.S. government might be it. Yeah, they're using. They
might be where we're mad. Like, screw us. I don't give a crap about Israel. My concern is how the F was our government allowing, facilitating, and coordinating this. It's very, I don't know. To me,
he was a registered informant.
They could very well be using Israeli intelligence to carry out their dirty work. And if you want to blame America, if you want to blame Israel, then you'll say Israel is using America to carry out its dirty work, depending on which.
Either way, both their fingerprints are on it. Okay, that's all I care about. I want to get to the truth. If it's America, they deserve. As far as I'm concerned, they deserve protests in the street. If America is doing this, which in my opinion, we are. Then we need to be out there protesting in the streets till we get the truth.
Well, we know for sure that we're involved because the guy was a registered informant for the FBI. That's on record. He also got that sweetheart deal in 2007, 2008. It wasn't Israel who gave him the deal. It was us. It was the FBI.
Well, and then Alex Acosta ended up becoming the head of HUD. Yeah. After that's the prosecutor who gave him the sweetheart deal. And on top of that, you guys, it already implicated, people forget that there was congressmen and senators who were implicated in the Epstein case who already are in jail for their role in it out of New Mexico and out of other states. What's concerning to me is the testimony of some of the victims who report cases of torture and experimentation very akin to MK Ultra. And the CIA, after admitting that they had participated in the MK Ultra program, they never said that they stopped, and that's what's deeply concerning to me. Is
they did say they stopped, and Sidney Gottlieb burned the files, or Richard Helms.
Have they publicly sworn under oath that they have stopped?
It would make during the church committee. Yes.
During the commission?
It would make a difference if they did. They prorogued it so they could rebrand and relabel it and carry it on.
I think they were done. I don't think they had anywhere else to go with it. It was already winding down on its own. There's other programs out there that have replaced it over time, like Havana syndrome, for example. So MK Ultra was kind of played out in of itself. They got the information that they needed to move forward. By the way, I have a channel called Proven Conspiracies where I do cover MK Ultra, Operation Midnight Climax, which was under MK Ultra, and I noticed the name Proven in the conspiracies. I do try to lean into those, like Mockingbird, like Operation Northwoods. These are all, there's declassified documents. You can check behind me. It's out there. So
that's Huntley, like to say, I don't look at MK Ultra as a unique, distinct project. I just see it as part and parcel of government experimentation on humans and psychological operations.
Sure. It was always an umbrella project. That's the thing. It was an umbrella project for all these other projects,
and it was also under paperclip. So there was an umbrella over it too. So it's a tapestry or a quilt of madness.
Until we get rid of FISA courts, though, I'm really reticent to believe anything that our U.S. government has to say or do. I think that it's just so objectively unconstitutional and it's abhorrent. So until we get rid of the FISA courts, I'm not going to buy or believe anything else. It's crazy to me. Yeah, I'm just going to stop there.
Well, wait, hold on now. I want to share the wealth, though, because, we have two Canadians here, and you guys had half of MK Ultra yourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
In Montreal. Ian, you're out west. I was at the epicenter. I had friends at the Allen Memorial. Like there was when we were growing up, we had an incident, and I ended up making friends with people at the Allen. That was a mental institution where they carried out MK Ultra, and or at least where that doctor carried out certain experimentation. It has ties to McGill, which is my first alma mater, and
Ewan Cameron.
Say it again.
Dr. Ewan Cameron.
That sounds, that'll refer.
I mean, he was actually ironically, he was the head or the president of the American Psychology Association, but Ewan Cameron was out of McGill doing these experiments, if I recall.
Yeah, I got to see this. I'm looking Canadian Encyclopedia between 57 and 64. Psychiatric experiment were conducted at the Allen Memorial. I remember where it was. It was right by the Lachine Canal. Beautiful. I think it was still used as an institution, still up until this day. But I thought they had shut it down. I'll double check. But yeah, this is a distinct Montreal connection. And neither I nor anyone in my family extended had anything to do with it directly or indirectly. Nor did
I don't know. You're married to a brain scientist.
And now that you mentioned that, Oy.
I wonder if some of her research could have. No.
Hey, Mary. I'll find out.
Wow. By the way, here's another example of MK Ultra helped present us to certain other people. Whitey Bulger was a victim of MK Ultra. A lot of people don't realize that. When he was in Kentucky, Ted Kaczynski, sadly, Ted Kaczynski was a genius professor at Harvard. Well, yeah, absolutely. Whitey Bulger got it when he was in prison. So it's interesting groups.
I would argue too that what's his name? Helter Skelter, help me out. Why?
The Manson stuff. I have interviewed Tom O'Neill.
He wrote the book Chaos.
I know the Tom O'Neill angle. I also know the Nick Schreck angle. I
also think Jim Jones.
These guys. I don't know on Jim Jones.
I think Jim Jones, because
I will say that it's.
If you go and look at you go and look at the torture he put his cult adherents to, it's like playbook brainwashing, conditioning. He also went to the San Francisco Psychological Institute, the same one where they were doing Midnight Climax and many others. He went there for like 3 weeks before he started his whole mission of bringing people together, and all of his rhetoric is right in line with everything that we've seen come out of other victims. But yeah, he was definitely an MK Ultra.
Somebody brought us back full circle.
I think the whole Jim Jones thing was an entire experiment from the CIA.
Whitey Berger's attorney is now the prosecutor in Karen Reed. If everybody hasn't
seen up.
Is it true? Crazy? So it's full circle then.
Hold on. Is it true? Can we confirm that before we?
Somebody else posted it earlier. I don't know for sure, but somebody can confirm. I don't know the lawyer name, so
I'll go look it up right now. But I was going to say this. Oh yeah, if everybody has not seen the movie Black Mass with Johnny Depp playing Whitey Bulger, it's actually a surprisingly phenomenal movie. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did.
Johnny Depp is a talented actor.
Oh yeah, the story is compelling, and
much better than Leonardo DiCaprio.
Black Sabbath.
Come at me.
No, Leonardo DiCaprio is a PDF file. So
shut up. I'm waiting for the audience to come at me because
hold on.
I think that Johnny Depp's a superior actor.
I am not for DiCaprio's lawyers. She said it. I'm just sitting here.
In my opinion.
I think you let some get of age. I mean, I think that what is it? Well, I forgot. It was Ricky Gervais. That was one of the best lines in the world when he said the movie was so long that he outgrew his girlfriend at the time, or she got too old by the end of the movie. So yes, he notably does like young women, but I think they hit drinking age before they see him. I think he's
Danny. What type of law do you do?
Everything. I just do civil litigation. If Leonardo DiCaprio's attorneys want to call me.
Oh no, that's not where I was going with that. I was going to a question that I had yesterday because I had on
civil lit.
Okay, so you might not know this because I had on Misfit Patriot, who's going hard against Cobra Andrew Tate in terms of speaking of the potato files, and he was
going against him or for him.
No, he's like Andrew Tate's guilty, lock him up. Throw away
okay.
And then one thing that came up in the discussion was this law called the Protect Act, which prohibits sex
Yeah, which apparently the
tourism.
Senate's good with, but the House
Yep.
can't seem to pass. I think it was 100% on the Senate, like 100 votes.
I've
But
had
the
this
House-
argument with a lot of criminal attorneys. I know where you're going with this.
So the
and it-
question was this: like I was saying, the age of consent in Britain was 16 or is 16
Yep.
at the time, and
Yes.
he says, well, the Protect Act prohibits travel for sex if for anyone under 18. And then I said that doesn't make sense that they could prosecute you for something that would be illegal in another country. That's legal in that country.
legal in another country.
The more that I thought about it, age of consent is a state issue in America, and there are some states where where the age of consent is 16. So it doesn't make any sense. And I messaged him
many
afterwards.
states are 17.
Yeah, but even if it's
Including
16,
New York, by the way. New York,
Well, and
I think the age of consent is
then-
17, and that's where Epstein
but then the
was.
question is this: Misfit says they can prosecute him for that by going to the UK to have sex with a 16-year-old. I was like, but then
So-
would they be able to interstate prosecute someone who goes from an age of consent 18 to an age of consent 17 state? Like,
I believe that they can. I
So-
thought, but
So they can if it's engaged in human trafficking. So
Is
if
that
you
the
go
Hogan
under a
Act?
different statute. So if he were just traveling out of state,
to visit
this
a
is
girl.
my understanding. I've read through this. I could totally be wrong. Okay. Ask a criminal defense attorney, not me. My understanding, though, of the law and the way it operates, and I focused more on underage marriage, specifically child marriage, child marriages in foreign countries, and then bringing back your bride to the United States.
Mhm.
That's what's fascinating to me is how that is legal. And my understanding is that in many,
Mann
at least
Act.
historically,
the
it
Mann
has
Act.
been legal. So I think I think it's going to depend on what charges come out of this, is my understanding. So if he's engaged in human trafficking overseas and he travels to a country to engage in human trafficking overseas, that's where I think they're going to get their hook in.
Hold on.
but
It's called
my
the
hands
Mann-
are up on
the-
this.
The Mann
Don't
Act.
ask me.
I
Don't
think
take
this is
my
the-
word
I
on
think
this.
this is actually on point. One that I can share, the Mann Act, which is what they got Jack Johnson on. It is also previously called the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910. I think it's still on the books, but essentially it's for people crossing the state lines to have immoral acts. So I think that's kind of on point with what you're talking about, David.
Yeah, no, but my question is more not even technical, just quite specific. If you can prosecute someone who goes to have sex with someone under 18 in a foreign country, would you not be able to do it for someone who does it interstate, goes to a consent state of 18 to one of 16 and then engages in relations?
Oh, I think you can. I think that's what wasn't that what they were threatening with Matt Gaetz and accusing him of engaging in?
It was it was interstate solicitation of prostitution, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Or interstate sex trafficking someone from an 18 state to a 16 state.
See, and I think that's the hook I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
I think that
I'm not-
the same applies internationally.
If a dude's 19, gets a girlfriend in a state that's 16, and then goes to that state, would they? If he's able to be prosecuted, then it would answer the question. If he's not, then it would really put a wrench in the wheel of the idea of.
Well, they have Romeo Juliet laws in a lot of places that help cover that, David. I think they're literally called that, Romeo Juliet, where it's like, if you're like 20,
Close
like
in
there's a
age,
4-year span or something. So
yes,
a 21-year-old with a 17 or 20 with a 60 or something like that. I forget the name of, but there do seem to be some of those built in.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
my take.
think I do know a criminal lawyer out here in Florida, so I'll DM him and see what.
Ask him. I mean, the quicker the Tates are investigated, the happier I'll be. I'm so tired of. He's gross.
Oh,
It's just gross.
they're being investigated and they're being prosecuted in Romania. We'll see where it goes. It's just like I have the argument
I
with.
think it's
where,
gotten
Oh,
dropped.
I doubt they're
because
It was
No,
dropped.
I doubt they're going back
Everything
to
was dropped in
Romania.
Romania.
No, it wasn't dropped. They
Oh.
paused it so they could bonify their charges or add to it. It wasn't dropped. I made a similar mistake once upon a time.
Okay.
where
But
it said that-
I think it's very weakened because they let him travel out of the country.
well, that's a conclusion. That was a retort I came to, is that he's so guilty that the government of Romania is letting this risk human trafficker travel to America. But they postponed the trial. They want to revise and add to the charging indictments. The Tate haters say it's to make it even stronger. The Tate defenders say it's because the case is so weak. But one thing is for certain, it's not been dropped entirely. It's been basically suspended temporarily so that they can beef up the allegation.
I will say this. I don't know the level of his guilt, but if I was a parent, I would not encourage my son to emulate Andrew Tate or the Tate brothers. Sorry, I find them at a minimum gross.
They're gross. They're gross.
That's my opinion. I'm sorry.
By their own statements, like the statements Andrew Tate has made publicly, the guy should be in a cage. Like,
yes, and he's admitted to being a PDF file. So on his own statements, according to his own statements, he's like, well, I'm not, that, but also younger girls are attractive. It's like, okay, so then you're attracted to underage girls. Just say that.
They are definitely trying to redefine themselves from all of their prior statements, which are on the internet forever. And like, I always say the anecdote is like, I came across some kids who like love Tate, and they're like, they start talking, and I was like, what the hell, where do you hear this crap? And then they're like, I want the Tate brothers. And then I see some clips and like, this is the most idiotic advice on earth. Now they're trying to go to no, but and idiotic, and then some of the stuff is just outright. You're like you say, it's not it's just stupid and repulsive. Then the only question is whether or not it's bona fide admissions of criminality or idiots talking idiot trash on the internet, and that's going to be up to the Romanian government to prove.
He skirts the line really hard, though.
Well, I've said,
those statements.
What he has.
I know how a Canadian court would handle his statements, which is they would be, they'd be like, yeah, maybe you should bring your toothbrush to court.
No, I said as far as the what they refer to as the lover boy interpretation of trafficking laws goes, I said like what he's described really sounds like what they consider to be lover boy business method of acquiring women.
Well, he literally talks it out. He says, "You do this, you do this." I mean,
and he's also specifically called it the lover boy method before.
Oh God! So, you know what? They're nasty. I hope that they both have heart attacks from testosterone use.
Speaking of testosterone, by the way, at what age do we want to start taking testosterone supplements?
Go and talk to your. Oh wait, is this a pitch? I'm sorry.
No, it's not. I don't.
Okay. I was like, is that an actual question, or are you trying to make money? I'm sorry.
Today's sponsor is by. No, I'm actually. There's two things.
I don't ask Joe Rogan.
So go get tested. Here's my recommendation. Any man who feels like they're feeling sluggish or starting to like lose energy, lose that vibe. If you're waking up consistently, not pitching tents in the morning, then you might want to go and get tested by a doctor. Endocrinology is so important both with women and with men. And I think one of the things men don't realize is that as your wife's hormones change, you also have changes in your hormones that will reflect it. So, for example, men tend to release to cultivate prolactin while their wife is pregnant. So while mom is breastfeeding and prolactin in women is good because it helps us breastfeed, in men, it causes the dad bod. It causes you to gain weight. It's what we use to produce milk for women. So you'll have an overabundance of prolactin. You'll have estrogen. Now, keep in mind, when you do go and take, this is something I want to warn all men out there. Please be aware that when you heighten your testosterone, you are going to see a mirrored height in estrogen. So if you start taking testosterone again and feel like you're going through puberty, you're a little emotional, you're a little upset, please keep in mind that you have both levels are increasing. And so there's ways to decrease your estrogen level. At the same time, there's estrogen blockers as you're increasing your testosterone. But these are all things to consider. Another thing to consider is that the younger that you start taking testosterone,
I'm sorry, I had to.
Or don't vote liberal.
No, there's a soy boy comment, but
and soy does impact your ability to create testosterone because it mimics estrogen in the body. The more estrogen you're going to have, the less testosterone you're going to have. But the opposite is true when you're putting in testosterone. You add testosterone, you're adding estrogen. If you're adding estrogen, you're decreasing testosterone. It's weird. I don't get it. Go talk to your doctors. But this is the last thing I'm going to say. If you are younger and you are taking testosterone or steroids, please keep in mind that it may sterilize you. It may have a temporary sterilization effect in that it can affect the mobility of your sperm, the quality of your sperm, and the amount of your sperm. So please keep that in mind. Now, there are ways to protect that against that by taking things such as HCG at the same time, but That's all I'm going to say. So to answer your question, yes, go get tested. If it even enters your mind, young men out there, older men out there, if it even enters your mind, what are my testosterone levels? Just go check. And then if they're, slightly below the average range, maybe look at taking natural supplements to increase your T, exercise, getting good sleep, quitting alcohol, quitting smoking, all of those things help. Okay, that's all, Danny.
Folks, this is why you need to subscribe to Laid Back Law, because we can move all the way from law to a very attractive female instructing testosterone levels for men. It truly has range, so you may want to consider subscribing now.
This is not
Laid Back Law, and we have wonderful discussions that are healthy.
Right on my side of the chat, Danny I had paused this a while back. It says, "Dang, join the stream when pitching tent in the morning, as long as the person next to you is not turning into a mountain. That's fair." Can I read I got to read the biltong over here. Looking for some healthy snacks to add to your diet. Creatine, biltongusa.com. Thank you very much, Biltong. But
how do I get on that Biltong track? I hear that he's donating everybody.
Oh, dude, he gets hate mail for infiltrating too many podcasts with super chats. Danny, I did actually read something where everybody wakes up. Well, men wake up with a boner because of your. And I looked it up. Like, why do men wake up with a boner? And then the answer was typically because your bladder fills up and it puts pressure on some part of your body that triggers a boner, an erection. And then actually said, if you don't wake up with a boner, by the way, this is not my problem at all. My problem is just general fatigue. Really? If you don't wake up with a boner, you might want to go check for ED, because you are supposed to, because of the pressure of a full bladder on your whatever the nerve is supposed to trigger an erection. And if it doesn't, that's not normal. So that is the question you can give to your kids when they say,
YouTube, this is not medical advice.
This is not medical advice, and it should not be construed as medical advice.
Medical advice.
I am not.
We are advising people how to cure cancer and
so
how to.
Supposed to put the testosterone down my pee hole, Danny. That's what you're saying.
You're supposed to squirt the methylene blue right in there.
I also think
that was my next question.
Just generalized knowledge out there. Just something you guys can go look up. Make sure that this is so important for young men, especially if you have received certain medical treatments. Make sure that you are getting your prostate examined and that your prostate levels are correct. If they are too high and you start taking testosterone, there can be some very serious adverse side effects, such as prostate cancer. Nobody wants to see that. So go ahead and make sure that you guys go get yourselves checked. I will die on the hill of protecting men's sperm. Male fertility is decreasing worldwide. This is not a joke. It is a plague worldwide. We're talking to the amounts of 30 to 40% decreases in male fertility over the past 10 years. It's can be attributed to a lot of things. I attribute it to several factors. I think plastic plays a huge role in this. I also think that the lack of
plastic
sleep
people
that we're giving to men has a huge impact at the lifestyle that we expect men to go to work for 8 hours to 12 hours a day, and then go out and party, and then go out and, make their spouse or their significant other happy, and then maybe go to sleep after, doom scrolling on their phones. You have an increase in SSRIs, which can always also impact those things. There's so much going into this. And anyone who says, oh, well, men are just lazy, I think that's the worst cop-out you could possibly make. I think that if it was just men being lazy, you wouldn't see it happening across the board with different cultures, with different men and different lifestyles. And it tends to be happening more so in developed nations. So this is a huge pandemic, or it's really scary. It's pandemic levels. And how nobody is talking about this is beyond me. How nobody's talking about the increase in prostate cancer. Nobody's talking about these male issues is really disturbing to me. So that's all I'm going to say. I'll shut up.
As Danny was trying to say, to quote the great Monty Python comedy troupe, every sperm is sacred. So, indeed. David, what do you have coming up?
Oh, but did you see the video of microbots to help
testosterone
motility of lazy sperm? Let me see if I can find this. We'll end on this. What do I have coming up? My daughter's in a play. So yesterday for 5 hours, I was taking photographs of their dress rehearsal, and I actually got some really, really good shots. Now I got to go see the play again tonight. So there's that. Sunday night show's coming up. I'm going to go to the car and do a short vlog on the dismissal of the motion to declare the prorogation unlawful. I'm going to go do a quickie on that. And then what else? Next week, it's going to be another whirlwind of insane news. Daily shows, 12:30. Viva Fry.
Danny, what do you have coming up?
Well, we didn't get to talk about it. The TSA, really quickly, Homeland Security just ended its collective bargaining agreement with the TSA staffers, and I'm so excited. Let me read this to you real quickly. Nearly 200 TSA officers are paid by the government, but work full-time on union matters. Okay, so they're double dipping. They're getting paid they're working for the union, likely getting paid by the union, and also are getting paid by the government. These people do not retain certification to perform screening functions. Additionally, in a recent TSA employee survey, over 60% said poor performers are allowed to stay employed and, not surprisingly, continue to not perform their capacities as TSA agents. So this is like very serious. I am so excited. It's the first step to getting rid of the TSA. The TSA needs to be gone, done with. It's state-sanctioned SA. I'm tired of it. I'm done with it. Do not steal my shit anymore. Do not touch my body. You do not have my consent. I have done nothing wrong. I am a legal citizen of the United States. I have unless you have an articulable, reasonable suspicion to sit there and pat me down, do not effing touch my body. You do not have my consent. Period. Screw you, TSA. I'm so excited. That's the kind of stuff we talk about on our channel.
Stop taking her bombs away.
Huh?
I said stop taking her bombs away.
The TSA hasn't really done anything effective, as far as I can tell, in the last ever.
They're a joke. They're a complete joke.
Once the shoe bomber got it off, then they make you take your shoes off. Once the underwear bomber got it off, then they check your undies and whatever.
The fun thing is
security theater.
They fail 95% of, or no, 99% of all of their tests. 99% they fail to catch obvious contraband. We're talking guns, bombs, knives, you name it, they miss it. So keep going.
I've only had them find a knife on me once, and I'm never intentionally carrying one through TSA, but on many occasions I've been like, on the plane, and I'm like, oh, I need to find my earplugs, and I'm like, oh, right. I've got, something like that. And I'm like, oh, whoops. Maybe that should have gone into checked baggage, and I guess I'm just going to leave that there. But you know what they find every time? That they're 100%
tweezers,
water bottles.
Oh God, yeah.
They always get the water bottle. But and I've literally had it where there's like a water bottle, and in the same thing, I accidentally left like a knife or something, and they're like, well, you can't have this water bottle, and this sails through, and I'm going, why are these people here? They're just there to take nude pictures of you with the
X-ray machine,
what they call the Rappy scan, but I always just sort of mispronounce intentionally because I hate the TSA. It's such a useless sack of garbage, but
absolute worthless, absolute unconstitutional, POS, like under the badge of it's bullshit. And I'm so excited to see it gone. Thank God. We're covering Karen Reed. We're covering whatever else, anytime an agency dies, my heart smiles. And we celebrate on our channel quite often. We talk about these cases. I've talked about the TSA. I've talked about their statistics. You guys think I'm joking? Go and look them up yourselves, please. Do yourselves a favor. And I'm so pleased to see that first step to the death of the TSA.
And everybody says where they brought through 100 simulated explosive devices, and the interdiction rate was 0.
Yep. That's 100% failure rate. For those who aren't listening, that's 100% failure rate.
Yeah. Wow. And it's because they're used to looking for water bottles and stuff like that for stupid policies. And so they're never actually paying that much attention to look for the stuff that they don't see, like the rare circumstance of this thing is actually and it was stuff like, this is simulated C4 with an actual, some of them were like, this is the explosive is inert, but it looks exactly the same on the thing. But they took an actual bomb and put all of the detonator and so forth in it. So, and the TSA was like, nope, enjoy your flight.
Yep.
So,
and anybody who says, oh, well, what about security? How are you going to do security? Just so you know, other countries have their own forms of security that don't include the confiscation of your shoes and whatever else, like your
Canada doesn't make you take your shoes off.
No one makes you take your shoes off. When you go through South Korea, you literally say, I don't want to do a facial scan. They say, okay, no problem. You go through the process, and here's the process. You put your stuff down on the conveyor belt. It goes through the x-ray machine. You take out your laptop, maybe. You walk through a metal detector, and you're done. That's it. That's it. And you know what? They don't have the problems we have. And here's the thing. That can be done. That actual security check can be done by the airlines when you're going through the airline gates when you check in. That can all be handled by each airline. And what's great about that too is you can pay for a better ticket for better service from said airline. You don't get the arrogance. You don't get the massive tyranny that you see at a micro level every single day. So it'd be great to see that transitioned. We don't. And by the way, you know what the largest security problem is in these airports that have been created by the TSA? The damn security line. You are a giant sitting soft target, and it's like 70 people all waiting.
Well, it happened in Florida, not recently, but a few years ago, where a guy shot up a bunch of people at the security line. So,
I'm shocked there's only been one bombing so far.
I had the thought when I was just packed in like cattle at one security line, and it was like literally. And I was just thinking, somebody here, you could take out more people in the security line than you take out on the plane. Yeah. I don't get it. But you were asking.
What do you have coming up, Ian?
Sorry, that's all I wanted to say. I'm done.
Lots of Karen Reed. I'll be talking as well about gun bans and gun restrictions in Canada. Probably a little bit more on some of the self-defense cases. The situation of what's happened with Peter Cahill is absolutely effed up. Peter Cahill is a guy who went out to confront somebody who's stealing his vehicle. He testified that he thought the guy was turning with a gun in his hand. And amongst other things, he got sentenced to the wrong sentence. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in court and then later said, oh, by the way, I meant to sentence him to 6 years. I just wrote 2 alternate versions of my sentencing decision, and I read the wrong one. And I was initially too embarrassed to correct myself because there was so much media attention there. So on appeal,
he's pre-writing his decision before he's heard the arguments, which is, I guess, nothing.
He said he pre-wrote a decision for 6 years, for 7 years, and for 8 years, and he grabbed the wrong one when he read the decision. So I'm like, this is messed up. I'm still covering Baldoni and Lively on occasion because that case continues to be it's Hollywood knife fight and everybody bleeds, so that's fun.
And nobody cares about anybody, which is those are nice because it's like in the great scheme, it's like who cares? One actor, this actor, nobody died.
The really wonderful thing about that one isn't like the thing that just horrifies me most about that one isn't any of the allegations. It's the text messages that have been released when everybody still thinks things are good, because you have not encountered a more artificial, narcissistic, forward, like every single communication with everyone has to be like nonstop ball washing. So anytime anybody says anything, it's like, I love your work so much. And also, would you please stop keying my car? Kind of like, it's this like weird sub-universe of people who just like, how do these people function in society? And the answer is many of them don't. So it's a really interesting world, view into like Hollywood and how messed up it is. So I'm enjoying that. And
it includes Canadian Ryan Reynolds.
Can I do 2 things before we go, actually? Sure. Wait. Ian, you weren't done. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It's going to be the sperm. I'm going to bring up sperm.
Oh, I also have a flamethrower video after.
I will not.
So
hold on. Where is it? Is it not here? Here it is. Look at this. Nanobots to help slow sperm. This is what you call a desecration of Mother Nature, natural evolution. Look at this. I don't exactly know what the hell I'm looking at here. That's a little sperm.
Is
I thought it was there to help sperm mobility.
Yeah, look at that. So it's going to get the sperm in it and push it into
like
the
a sperm canoe.
Yeah,
oh, dude, it's like a sperm propeller.
Yep.
Like, hey, this is there's a reason why that sperm is not making it to the egg, but let's go ahead and fix that. And look at this.
And this is hugely helpful because it prevents women from having to go through the process of IVF, which is not.
But the question is this, though, Danny. This is pushing the slow sperm. I mean, that's like rewarding the ones that would have naturally not been rewarded.
Here's the thing. So sperm motility and sperm quality are not necessarily synonymous. So you can have a bunch of really good holding DNA sperm that would be fine. That's why IVF is in play, right? So they take less mobile sperm and just implant it right into the egg. It's not a guarantee of, it wouldn't have survived. Obviously, it's not going to survive naturally. Obviously, it's not going to get there naturally. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But I mean, the option is either that, having a little propeller, or doing IVF, which requires egg retrieval from the female, which is really difficult and dangerous and not perfect. It's a practice. IVF is still a practice, and it's not guaranteed. So, but this idea of more birth defects, no, that's.
I defer to you. You definitely are knowledgeable, but I would have been on the boat of a slow sperm is by definition the one that's not supposed to make it.
The bad sperm, yeah.
No, not bad, just not supposed to make it there for whatever the reason. So I'm skeptical, but I do defer to you. I also just want to bring up one comment from our locals community, which was from.
But you're correct. I mean, you're correct. If it's slow, it's not supposed to make it.
Yeah, and if you make it, like, yeah, okay. Well, so the winner, is winning the loser is going to win the race, or someone who should not have won the race. Viva.
But the problem is usually it's all losers.
All right.
Right? Like they're all missing the egg in these scenarios where you would have a propeller on one.
Sorry, that was my dog. Quiet.
Yep, go ahead.
Viva, can you get the assemblyman on your show? Here's why: removed from California Budget Committee for exposing waste and abuse. And I'll get to that. See the veil, because I'm not going to have our locals after party like I typically would because of the shared thing, which I think goes down at the same time. So,
yep, essentially. So, everybody, thank you so much again. Wide-ranging discussions. You never know what's going to come up on a Friday and how it's going to end. But I hope to see you next week. If you're on the Viva Pride channel, consider subscribing on Layback Law. You can't make it every Friday per se, but it will be helpful to have you around and you can get more topics like this.
And if you had your money on this was going to end with little robots pushing sperm into eggs, congratulations, you should go buy a lottery ticket.
Yes.